36 counties from the Oregon border down past Stockton all the way over through Santa Cruz County. We are in charge of assisting SBA and the state of California, helping small businesses with technical assistance and trainings. In particular, right now, we are working very hard to get COVID updates as quickly to businesses as possible. All of the services that we're providing are free to entrepreneurs like yourself, and always really wanting to hear what's happening on the ground and how we can better serve our clients. So we are also joined by Scott Rogalski, who is our director of the Finance Center, which also serves the NorCal territory, and Noah Broad. And Noah is from SBA, Broad, sorry. And Noah is from our district office in SBA and will be also joining, answering questions for things Scott is not aware of. So with that, I'll just have you go ahead and take it, Scott.
Awesome. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, Monday morning on the 20th, April 20th. And also my assistant director, Sunita Maharaj, will probably be on the call a little bit later to help assist with questions, Q&A, and some other additional information that may be updated as we're talking to you currently right now. And I apologize for starting a little bit later, but I just got off the call from iBank, which is the state guarantee lender, to get some updated information on some things that I was talking about 2 weeks ago that I didn't have all the information. So now I have more information. I'm not sure if we'll ever have all the information, but so Ann went over this a little bit, who we are, what we do, who we're funded by SBA. Noah allows us to work every day, so thanks to Noah. And then the state of California is the Governor's Office of Economic Development, known as GoBiz. All right, so this is a disclaimer that things are changing all the time. This information was correct when we put it together, but things are changing all the time. If you applied for the EIDL, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, then your loan inquiry will be processed even though the site is currently down. So if you already applied, after March 29th, if you have applied, then you're okay. Even though the site's down, you're still in the queue. They're still going to process that just at a different time. Hopefully you'll get to that this week or potentially next week. If you applied before March 29th and you have not heard back from SBA, whether it be an email, a phone call, or anything else, then what is best for you to do is when the portal reopens is to reapply, which we'll have more information on that a little bit later. So there's no way that we could check the status of your SBA EIDL loan that was submitted. So if it was submitted after March 29th, you received a number that started with a 3. That is your loan number. You need to hold on to that number so that when you email SBA back, you can put that number in the subject line so they can know who you are and what you're applying for. So we ask you that you be patient. You can reach out to us and then we can start helping you with the other forms that you may need as you apply for the SBA loan, but we're not allowed to tell you your status. And unfortunately, at this moment, unless Noah says different later or now, you can't really call SBA and ask them about your status on your loan. Also, if you applied for the Triple P, which is the Paycheck Protection Program, and you're in the queue with your lender, then you need to reach out to them today if you haven't already. You need to ask them if you have a loan number assigned to you. Were they able to get a loan number from SBA through ETRAN, E-T-R-A-N? Normally you wouldn't know that, but I'm going to tell you that because you can have a little bit of information as a business owner. It's good to go to the bank that you applied for the Triple P. If they haven't declined you yet, then you still might be in the queue. There are other monies coming for Triple P. It may come tomorrow, it may come Wednesday, it may come Friday, but we are being told through CNN and other sources of research that there are more Triple P money coming. There is more Triple P money coming. But if you're in the queue, you need to talk to your lender today and see if you're either declined or they just ran out of money. If they ran out of money, then you need to start getting all your documents together because anything that's in the queue with banks right now, when the new money comes, whether it be Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, it'll allow the lender to essentially press a button internally through some tech platform that will allow them to get an E-Tran SBA loan number for you immediately. The faster that you're in the system, you have all your paperwork, the faster that you're going to get told if you're approved or not, and the faster you're going to get the money. So as we mentioned on a previous last week's, right now, since the portals are down, you can't apply. It's all about planning. It's all about getting your paperwork together. And that's what we do best at the SBDC, Small Business Development Centers. That's what we can help you with at no cost. So this is kind of what that's talking about. So some lenders ask for a lot of financials for the Triple P. Some lenders ask for just like 2019 or 2018. But what you see on the screen here is this is like what would be in a total loan package if you were to apply for a lender, the one you bank at, or another one that you don't bank at that is taking non-customers, because there are a few, and I will go over that a little bit later. But this is just a quick snapshot of what you would need to collect so that you're ready to talk to a lender or bank, credit union, or whomever, separate loan fund about your the way your business is set up and how it's structured and how the financials make sense. So, excuse me, to go into the loans that are available, currently there's two loans that exist on the marketplace that you can apply for if you are in a disaster mode. There's two loans now. There might be a couple more later this week. Currently at this time, you're not allowed to apply. I mean, you're not able to apply for either the EIDL, which is Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the Advance within that, or the Triple P until there's more funds that are available. But as far as what's available out there, there's the EIDL, which is SBA direct money. That money comes directly from SBA's pocket and it goes to you. There's no lender involved. The Triple P comes from lenders, your everyday lenders, the ones you bank with, the ones you don't bank with, the ones that do SBA 7A loans. It's the product name. Those are monies from lenders, and then SBA will guarantee it. They'll help support the risk associated with the loan. In the state of California, there's some sales tax deferment options that you can take advantage of. Also, iBank microloans, which I'll go into detail more about that. There is an SBA Bridge Express loan. We're still talking about this, even though we haven't seen any bank step up to the plate and say, hey, we're really excited to do this loan program. But apparently in 2017 in statute, they wrote that SBA preferred lenders can offer these bridge loans in time of a disaster, which we're experiencing right now. And they can give you a quick $25,000. You do have to pay it back. It's not forgiven, but it is a quick loan that they can inject into your business to help you, help you with whatever you need right now, like payroll or working capital. We haven't really found any lender to say that they're doing this right now. And then anybody that gets a regular 7A loan, like whether it be a sustainable loan, since you're not like experiencing super disaster, or if it's like a expansion loan for whatever reason you're expanding right now, any current loan that you get today from SBA that's a 7A, or from your lenders that SBA guarantees, is SBA will pay the principal and interest for the first 6 months of that loan. All right, so the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So we've been talking about this ever since we launched these webinars. I mean, this is the terms. We don't have to really go into it full detail. Most of you on the phone probably already know what this is. But the EIDL loan is not forgiven. It's a great loan, 30 years, 3.75%. You don't have to make a payment till the first of the 12th month. The loan amounts, they're anywhere between 5 and potentially 2 million. And then some of this information on here, some of it may have changed, like the time frame from the time that you apply to the time that you get a case manager to the time that you get the money. It's becoming longer than what I have on here. So, that's because SBA and like everyone else didn't understand how many inquiries we were going to get. And SBA did about 14 years worth of loans in the first 14 days or last 14 days, which is really impressive, but also insane at the same time. If you have applied for the EIDL and you're in the queue and you're just waiting, There's some forms that SBDCs can help you get ready because SBA may or may not ask for these additional forms, but they're good to get ready. They're good for practice for you to fill out because you are going to need to fill out similar forms for other lenders for other loans. And these are the forms here: the 2202, 1368, 413D, 4506T. And those may mean nothing to you, but they mean everything to SBA and SBDCs, and we can help you get access to these, help you fill them out so that you are prepared. As far as eligibility with the EIDL, there's a lot of different entities and industries that qualify that don't normally qualify for an SBA 7A loan, like Uber or Lyft or any 1099 contractor, real estate agent, anybody that has potentially a passive income in business model, like somebody that owns a commercial building and has tenants. If you have Airbnb, you do hair on the side. Like most small business sole proprietors, 1099 contractors qualify. And for for-profits, it's up to 500 employees, and for some nonprofits, it goes up to 750 employees. Sorry, jeez, computers, real quick. Okay, so the EIDL advance is as you're applying for the EIDL. If you already have applied, then you know what this is. If you haven't applied, then we're not sure what this is going to look like going forward. But in the current state of what it was, is you were able to apply at the same time you applied for your business loan for an advance, up to $10,000, depending on how many employees you have. And there are some clients or business owners that we're working with that have received this money, even when they didn't know SBA was going to put it in their bank account, because when you fill out the application, you give them the routing number and account number, and then you wake up one day and voila, you might have some of your money there. So you just need to check that. We are seeing these EIDL advances being funded, and the EIDL advance is fully forgiven. All right, so I do have this marked wrong on here. I was told that like last week, but I forgot to change it. It's not called payment; it's called Paycheck Protection Program. So it's a triple P. Doesn't matter what you call it. I don't think so, but. So the terms are 2 years. This is very different than the EIDL. The terms are 2 years. It's a 1% loan. You don't have to make a payment until after 6 months, and the max is 10 million. So a little bit different than the EIDL. Also different from the EIDL is there's no personal guarantee needed for this. There's no collateral, and you don't need to show that you can't get money elsewhere. Very similar as far as eligibility for the triple P. You could be a sole proprietor, you could be a 1099 contractor, you could be self-employed and qualify, you could be a C Corp, S Corp. Every entity structure, for the most part, qualifies for the triple P. If you're a sole proprietor, there's additional information that you need to get together, and that's all your 1099s from 2019. Whether that's one company or 10 companies, you need to start gathering that information. If you're not a sole proprietor, you need to gather your W-2s and 941s so all your W-2s for 2019 and your 941s or 940s. You need to start gathering all that together. There's also a universal form. We have the most updated form from the Treasury. So if you applied really early on with the PPP loan, you may not have had a chance to put an amount in there because you were like really on top of your paperwork. But the new form has a spot where you can put how much money you'd like. And we could send that to you. Your local SBDC can send that to you. What can you use the money for? Or the EIDL is pretty much used for working capital. Anything that would take to run and operate your business, whether it be your cost of goods, your accounts payable, your inventory, or your normal expenses. For the triple P, it's very limited on what you can spend the money on. Mostly all payroll costs, health benefit insurance, sick, paid, workman's comp insurance, employee salaries, compensation, other forms of income or payroll, wages. And then you could also use it for any rent or mortgage payments, utilities, which includes pretty much all utilities, lights, internet, telephone, and then any interest debt payments, like if you pay a monthly payment to like a car or a building or something else that is a debt payment. So you could essentially take all your monthly costs for all your payroll, what's mentioned here, and then your rent, utilities, and interest debt payments, and times that number by 2.5, and that's what you qualify for. The triple P, as far as the forgivability of it, is if from the time that you get the money till 8 weeks after that. So if you get the money today on the 20th, 8 weeks after that, it'll probably be around June 20th. You need to spend about 75% or more of the monies on payroll and the other costs associated here, and then it will be forgiven. So it has to be 75% more on payroll. It could be 75% payroll, 25% everything else, which is rent, utilities, interest, debt payments. But if the equation is a little bit different on the percentages, then there could be a chance that it would not be forgiven. The lenders are the ones that you need to go talk to figure out forgivability and what is valid and what is not. So I apologize. I forgot I had a slide on this. So here's what I was kind of talking about with that. And then, so we understand that just like SBA got inundated with taking as many inquiries as they normally do in a year in one day, the banks also got inundated, and they're now processing what they normally do in a year in 5 days. So it's very quick. It's a lot of transactions. May not technically be humanly possible, but they're working endless hours, weekends, late nights. So there might be some lenders that you don't bank with that will take non-customers. They're hard to find. We have a list. SBA has a list right here, sba.gov/paycheck protection/fine. Type in your zip code and help you find some lenders around town. If you're not approved by your lender, or they're over capacity, or they're just not sure how to help you, you can email us at loans@asksbdc.com, and we can help you find some lenders. There's some here mentioned here. Lendistry is an online lender. They're in Southern California, but they are doing lending for the triple P in 5 states. So they have an awesome tech platform where they're filling their pipeline and funnel right now before the money comes, so that when it does come, they could just press submit and get some loans done. For the state of California, there's some specifics to California, as there are probably other states. So there's California iBank is it's under the Governor's Office of Economic Development in Sacramento, and they're supporting small businesses their own way. There's a $50 million fund that they kind of allocated to help out. It's actually a 2-to-1 loan fund, so it's leveraged 2-to-1. So actually, the total amount that they're lending or having access to lend is $100 million. I know it says 50 million here, but it is a 2-to-1 ratio. Those are for loans up to $50,000. So my slide, now that I look at it, is a little confusing and jumbled. So I apologize for that. So there is the $50 million. So if you could skip past the disaster state guarantee up to $1 million, 95%, and then just go where it says only available if, so say if you did not qualify for EIDL or triple P. So this $50,000 microloan fund is only available to a small business owner if they did not qualify for the EIDL or the triple P. It could be for anything. It could be for credit related. It could be for you don't have a social security number, you have a matricula. It could be for anything that you did not qualify either for the triple P or the EIDL. You do potentially qualify for this $50,000 microloan funds. So the best way to find out about it, that we found out this morning, myself and Sunita Maharaj, is that you could go to this website. It's www.ibank.ca.gov, Small Business Finance Center. You could also just go to ibank.ca.gov for a lot more information. But there's a link on there where you can find lenders and you can apply for this $50,000 microloan fund. So we were told it was supposed to launch last week and then even prior week on the 10th. But as a lot of you have watched these webinars over and over and over again with us, we appreciate the support, but we are hoping that it launches physically this week. But but they do have a website now. They are talking about the websites. So as a small business owner, this may be one of the questions later. We're not going to tell you what CDFIs, Certified Development Financial Institutions, because we actually don't know. We were told some last couple of weeks, but then they took those away. They're not doing them anymore. So we actually don't know the lenders. You have to go to this site, this website right here. We used to give information where you could go to your local FDC, Financial Development Corporation, but that also changed this morning. So we apologize for a lot of that in the past few days or past few weeks. We do have updated information here. So right above that, it says disaster state guarantee up to $1 million at 95%. That is a separate loan product, very similar to the Triple P as how it's organized. It's a guarantee loan from the state of California instead of the SBA. Triple P is SBA guaranteed up to 100%. This is a disaster state guarantee loan up to 95%, up to $1 million. This is money coming from lenders, everyday lenders. They may be SBA lenders, they may be non-SBA lenders. You wouldn't really know as a business owner, so that's why we recommend that you do come to us for this loan program. We can kind of help you kind of put your financials together, which is that one of the first slides I showed. So I apologize that this slide is a little confusing. I forgot to change that this morning. So this in the state of California, there's a sales tax deferral. It's allowing small businesses to defer payments of sales and use tax up to $50,000 or up to 12 months. That's just specific to the state of California. So I know it took a little bit longer explaining a lot of this stuff before we go to Q&A. I appreciate your patience. We do have a 833 number, Ask SBDC, where you can get a live person. We do have same day response. We have not, fortunately or unfortunately, we have not had to take these calls that we receive same day and flip them to the next day. We have a really great committed team on the Finance Center team that is helping route and filter these calls. You could also email us at loans@asksbdc.com, which we also have a policy that we stay true to so far, where we get back same day response, same day. Hey, thanks for an email. This is my advisor, Jen or Serena or whomever. They're here to help you at no cost, answer your questions. And then we also have one for Spanish speaking individuals, small business owners, Espanol at asksbdc.com. I am going to keep this slide up as we talk. I know we have a lot of Q&A. It looks like we have about over 120. I think Anne is very excited about that. She's got like a really big smile on her face. She's ready to go. So thank you very much for the time. I'm going to stay on with Sunita, Noah, and Alan, and we're going to do our best to answer a bunch of questions in 34 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Scott. So I'm going to start with one that was actually a little ways down because it kind of made me laugh. Eric is asking, is CNN your actual source or resource for information, Scott?
I shouldn't have said that because I know that could be a political statement, so I apologize. I'm not really into politics at all, but the reason why I said that is, I got a text from one of my advisors on Saturday morning, Chris Horton, said, hey, I just got off a call with 80 lenders nationally and DC, and they said this. And I said, okay, well, that's hearsay. Maybe I'll look through the news, maybe I'll find it. And then later I just kept seeing links with CNN on it about updates, and that's what came through. So what I heard, which is hearsay, which we didn't send out at 7 a.m., Aaron Phelps, marketing director for NorCal, did not send this out, is that they're trying to work through a deal, as we all see through the news. You guys see all that every day. They know they need to do another tranche of money. We were told that that's $250 billion, that it's going to come this week, maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. And with that, as you know, the first tranche of $349 billion went super fast, 2 weeks. This 250, who knows? This week, next week, I don't know. But yeah, I did mention that. I won't do that again.
We're participating in constant informational webinars from our funders, SBA and the state of California, as well as town hall meetings, webinars with community partners, et cetera. So our information is coming from there and from our clients that we are working with one-on-one to help them get these loans. And so it's coming from a variety of resources. So I just wanted to be able to answer that directly. Thank you, Scott. Okay, Denzer is saying we got the PPP, but now not all of our employees want to come back. Can we hire back a few at a higher hourly rate so we can comply with the loan? We've answered this question many times and the answer is yes. Lauren Keating is saying, so if we applied for both PPP and EIDL early on and have heard nothing, where do we stand?
So it depends on how early you applied for EIDL. If you applied before March 29th and have not heard anything, whether it be in your spam email or regular email, then you would need to reapply. If you applied after March 29th, then you are okay. You're in the queue. We have told that they are going to get to you. How fast, we don't know that obviously, but also the triple P, if you applied early on, then you should have already heard from your lender before they ran out of money. It depends on how early you applied, but it came out on the 3rd. So if you applied really early in the 3rd and you haven't heard back, then you need to call your bank. If you can't get a hold of them, you need to walk into your bank and go talk to them, and you just need to get answers right away. They have all the answers for the triple P.
Noah, do you have any other insight to share? You're muted.
Sorry. I would just say that for the economic injury disaster loans, the only way to get a status update on that one really is to the 1-800 number, but also that there have been a lot of changes being made to that 1-800 number, both in terms of the quality of the service and the efficiency of it, and the ability of the representatives on those lines to have a little bit more insight and visibility into applications. So as I've been working with business owners, and I've been bringing feedback internally within SBA to ensure that the quality of that line improves. So if maybe you called a week ago and it wasn't very successful, I actually do think that folks should recall that number for those status updates. And then I guess the other thing on the EIDL is that depending on where what the process looks like for the economic injury disaster loan program is you put in the application and you wait. There's a waiting, like a period of time when you're waiting, and then you might start to see a credit check ping if you use any monitoring software for your credit. And that is something that comes before you get an advance directly deposited. And then there's another period of waiting while the loan gets evaluated for either approval or rejection. And if you're approved, you'll get contacted by SBA with a link to log into a portal and upload some supplementary information to for that loan application. So that's kind of what that process looks like for the economic injury loan program. And
no, you said the 800 number, is that 800-659-2955?
Yes.
I'll post that in the chat.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that.
Are there any rules, Suni, if any of you can answer this, are there any rules about hiring back family members if all the employees don't want to come back for PPP?
I would consider an employee, related or not, so that they could pay them. If they're unable to get back their original people, I have heard that unfortunately people don't want to come back, or they're getting paid more on unemployment. So they would have to be able to fulfill and pay during those 8 weeks. So it can be new employees.
Okay.
The only other thing I would add to that as well is that the detailed guidance on forgiveness still hasn't been released by SBA, and at the moment there's not a guidance around specific head count requirements, although there is a lot of language kind of on the label for the program. So I'd encourage folks to first, with the PPP, always look at their promissory note and see what's detailed in that with their lender after they've closed on that loan. But then also, this is one of those scenarios where the program changes almost every single day, so people have to go back to the well and relearn, relearn what they know, and maybe even unlearn things that they've learned in the past about that program as additional guidance comes out.
Nikki is saying, can you review how the loan forgiveness will be determined? Our loan may be funded this week. I want to better understand the 8-week payroll loan and how we need to track expenses to qualify for loan forgiveness.
So the 8 weeks start the day that you get funded. So if you got funded today, like I mentioned earlier, the 8 weeks would start. As far as what's forgiven and what's not forgiven, we're being told that if you spend all the money on payroll, then it's more likely going to be forgiven in the first 8 weeks. If you spend 50% on payroll, then really only 50% is going to be guaranteed or forgiven. If you spend more money on rent and utilities over 25%, then I think only up to 25%, unless Sunita, that's not right to tell them, but would be forgiven for rent, utilities, and interest debt expense. The forgivability of what you spend in the first 8 weeks, your lender is going to have some more information on that. They need to validate it first internally, and then they're going to go to SBA and then validate it with SBA. And then, then it'll be forgiven if it's qualified or not. It's very important that you pay attention to the paperwork that you sign when you sign for these loans. If you would like us to review those paperwork or those documents, I told clients that we can do that. And that's obviously confidentiality issues with that. But if you're comfortable as a business owner and you're not sure what you're signing, then we can help you review those documents before you sign them. Obviously, we're not lawyers or attorneys or CPAs or tax accountants, but we can tell you from our other knowledge that we have as far as what may look right, what may not look right, or just some more questions that you should ask your lender, because you're not the expert on these loans. Nobody is, because they just launched like 2 weeks ago. So, but that's my take on that. Sunita, I'm not sure if you have a different take on the 2575 and the intricacies within that.
You're muted, Sunita.
You're muted.
Muted.
Thank you. Sorry. As of what we know right now, the 75-25 is what we've been reading. So if you spend 75% or more on payroll and 25% or less on the other approved items, then yes, it could possibly be forgiven. But as Noah said, things are changing. The verbiage is changing. You have to read your note. You have to be in constant contact with your lender. When you sign those documents, you ask the lender, even before, exactly, can you give me documentation on how this money is supposed to be spent, so that way I spend it accordingly. That's what I would really ask, because it's going to go back to the lender and what they expect you to bring to them to document that you spent it correctly.
And again, the way that you spend the 75% of the funds is based on dollar amount, not head count, correct, Sunita?
Yes, dollar amount. So that's why it's called the Paycheck Protection Plan.
All right. Human is asking, we applied for EIDL $10,000 2.5 weeks ago, got a confirmation number and no email or response yet. How does it work? So as we've said already, we don't have a crystal ball, but those for the EIDL are still in the queue, and hopefully with this next tranche of funding, that'll open up some additional loans. But keep hanging on, and if you need to, contact the 800 number through SBA and see if you can track down what the status is. Any word, everyone, on when a self-employed person can apply for unemployment in California? Have you heard anything, Sunita?
The last update I had was on the 27th, but as always, those things can change because this is a new process for EDD. I will double check again this week to see if that is still a valid date. I don't know if Noah, if you know any updates or not. I saw you shaking your head, but I don't know if that was the case or not.
No, for the unemployment, that really is driven by EDD. So I don't have any updates on that date.
One of our centre directors has put in the chat that in fact apparently it's April 28th, and there's a date. There's something I'm going to look at and confirm back with you.
Okay. Let's see. Maribel is saying we received our PPP. How should we keep track of how we spend our money to make sure that it's forgiven?
As stated, to check with your lender and ask them directly what it is that you need to do to document that. I would start with an Excel sheet, of course, and majority of the money needs to go towards payments for paycheck, for payroll. So that's how you should definitely spend the money, but contact your lender and get information from them because they're the ones that provided the loan.
Okay, Jan is saying that she read that iBank requires profitability. If you weren't profitable last year, could you still qualify?
So it said that iBank requires that you show profitability. Is that what they said?
That's what her message here says. I read that iBank requires profitability. Have you seen that requirement, Scott?
So it's sort of undisclosed. It's sort of like a gray area, like business lending is all the time. It seems like lenders make up stuff every day. And now that we're in a new world, there's like brand new programs being created every day. But if it does say that, I would still apply if I were you, because you, as a small business owner, may or may not know exactly what they're looking at for profitability. It could be net profit. It could be EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. It could be something else, to be honest with you. I would just apply. Unless you have something that's not super eligible, like cannabis or a risque business or something like that, then I don't think you should read something there and not apply. I would still apply.
Okay. So Scott is one of our webinar participants. Scott is saying that there are a lot of big chains that have received millions of dollars from SBA's emergency lending program, but they still haven't received their advance. Is there any comment from SBA on that, Scott? I mean, Noah, sorry.
Yeah, Scott wants to answer that for us. No, actually.
You probably will get back to the answer for you, so.
Yeah, so the structure of the PBP, there's been a lot of these reports coming around, allows for franchises to apply for PPP loans, so long as those franchises had met the SBA eligibility requirements under our normal programs. So, one of the ways to think about franchises is there's many different types. Some are owned by one entity. So like for instance, Starbucks owns every single Starbucks 100%. But there are other franchises that are owned by individual business owners who purchase into that franchise and own and control how that franchise delivers its product. And SBA determines which franchises have an individual owner who runs that business, that franchise, like a business owner. And we have a directory of franchises that have met that criteria. and those franchise owners were able to participate in the PPP. And so I think it really depends on the franchise that, so there's a lot of news reports that came out about different franchises that got PPP funding, but the way to read those is to really understand that every franchise is different in the way that's structured, and many franchises are run like small businesses with an individual owner who owns and controls most of what goes on, who is making similar business decisions as an independent Main Street operator, and that not all of those funds are necessarily going up to one large corporate entity in the same way that it may have been reported.
Noah, I wanted to see if you could give us, for the purposes of the participants of the webinar, there was an average amount of EIDL funds that had been provided on one of our internal webinars. The size of the average amount, do you know what that average amount was?
For EIDL or for PPP?
Well, do you know that number for either?
Yeah, because we did release a report. Let's see. Pull it up here. About PPP during the first, over the period of time that's been open, and the majority of PPP loans were under $150,000. Actually, I'll link it here in the chat. What that report, so people can look at it themselves. Mm-hmm. So that's the report for PPP funding, and about 74% of PPP funds were under $150,000 of the number of loans funded under the program.
Okay.
For the EIDL program, we haven't released
smaller businesses.
Oh, sorry. What's that?
So that does point more towards those smaller entities.
Yeah, I mean, PPP allows for funding of up to $10 million, but what you actually see in the program are, less than, less. It says like 0.27%, so less than 0.5% received above $5 million even. So even though it allowed for up to $10 million, very few businesses ended up actually participating at that level.
Okay. Eric is asking, can I give myself 75% of the payroll since my employees make more money on unemployment than they would working for me?
That's a great question. Noah, do you know that answer?
So some of that depends on how they filed. If they're a sole proprietor who received a PPP loan, there's a cap on owner draw. So it's limited to essentially what you would have paid yourself over an 8-week period during 2018 based on that tax return. So that is a cap that's built into guidelines that were released last week for sole proprietors who are operating under the PPP. And then I think that's the only situation in which which owner draw was actually, would really constitute, because if you're the owner, you're not necessarily doing payroll expenses under an LLC or under some of those other formats. So it kind of depends on how you're filing your taxes. But there is a cap on it.
Great question to ask your lender. Your lender will hopefully guide you with that.
Okay. Cindy is saying, does the EIDL advance get forgiven automatically, or do you have to provide documentation, proof of how you spent it? And does it have to go toward refinance or payment of PPP if you get both?
So the advance money should be used for business purposes, not for refinance. And as far as we know, as of today, it is forgiven.
Okay. Noah, Lori is asking why is so much more money going into the PPP as opposed to EIDL when the stay-at-home order is still in effect?
So that's, yeah, really the amount budgeted towards either of the programs is driven by, that was written into the CARES Act. So that is what was appropriated to the programs.
Okay. So I guess
so maybe not like the clearest answer. It's sort of like, well, it is what it is. That's what the budget is. And I would say there's also a structural reason also why, which is that if by opening up the lender network, we were able to get out financing way faster in a way more diversified way by including 5,000 plus different lenders who all had funds that they could get out to their business owners as quickly as possible. So, and that's come through in some of the initial reporting that looking at the initial reports between the EIDL and the PPP, some of the EIDL funding has moved a lot faster than some of the PPP funding has moved a lot faster than the EIDL funding.
Okay. Can we include a car allowance in the PPP if we've never done it before? We are now doing deliveries, which is new.
Only if it's a payment that you pay, like a loan payment. If it's a loan payment, yes. If it's no loan payment, no.
Sarah is asking or saying that Chase emailed her yesterday saying that there are 100,000 applications ahead of hers. Should she cancel and reapply with a smaller lender?
It's a great question. 100,000 applications is quite a few. It's a crazy number to think about. But if we don't really recommend that you apply to a bunch of different lenders, it may make sense based on that for you to decline your the waiting list where you're on the waiting list, and then potentially go to like a different, one of these other lenders that we have here. Give them a call. Lendistry they only have 360 loans in the queue, which is a lot less than 100,000. If you need access to them, you can email us here and we can get you to them. They're still taking applications. That's a tricky question to say, yes, go ahead and do it, or no, don't do that. So it's up to you, but 100,000 is obviously a bigger number than 360. So
yeah. Let's see. I wanted to just do a refresh. Could we talk about the hit on your credit again? I saw two different people ask those questions in the Q&A. Sunita, is it still a soft pull on your credit for both or for EIDL and PPP, or is that just for one or the other?
I believe it is still a soft pull through SBA's EIDL. For the PPP, I cannot guarantee it's a soft pull or not. It's because it's per lender. If you're an existing customer, they may do a soft pull. If you're not an existing customer, they may pull your credit because they have no relationship with you. They don't know your business. They don't have any documentation in regards, they don't have the history. So they may pull. So you would have to check per your lender if they are or are not going to pull credit. So on the PPP, go directly to your lender. And I know I keep saying this is because it is lender driven. It is a guarantee from the SBA on the PPP, but it is lender driven funds. So you would have to check with them to see if it's going to be a hard pull, a soft pull. but that's what I know as of right now.
Okay. I have my PPP funds, says one person, but I can't reach anyone at my bank who will answer my questions about how to use them so that they will be forgiven. The branch doesn't know anything, and I don't get any responses to my emails and calls on their dedicated cares line. Could you guys tell me, you guys keep telling me to talk to my lender, but I can't. Any other recommendations?
So yeah, you could, if you can't get a hold of your lender specifically at the branch that you applied at, you could call their 800 number business line number and wait online for as long as you want to. You could email us at this email right here. We're obviously not going to be able to answer for the bank that you bank with, but we can tell you what we know on what's going to be forgiven. You need, if you have received your triple P money and you are hesitant to start spending it, then you're kind of, I can't say the real word, but you're kind of, putting yourself at a disservice, because as long as you wait, the less money is going to be forgiven. You have to start spending it in the first 8 weeks as soon as you can, most on payroll. If I were you and you have questions about, I'm not sure what's covered, I'm not sure if rent, utilities, interest debt payments are covered, I would spend all that money on payroll costs, workman's comp, sick, medical, leave, all that stuff. Hire as many people as you can back at the same status and use it all for payroll.
Let's see. Some of these questions are really repetitive, so I'm trying to get to some others. So Christine says SBA pulled her credit yesterday. I know you talked about what happens when that happens. Any idea of timeline after that? At least you know it's going through.
Yeah, I think that's, seeing that as a good sign. But, I can't say like, oh, it's 24 hours or 6 hours or 3 days. It just means it's, you're being processed.
Okay. Jim is saying, do you expect the EIDL program to be funded along with the PPP when Congress approves additional funding? Yes, that is what Scott had indicated earlier. That is the expectation. But things happen. So we're just saying, keep listening to these webinars and paying attention to what's going on in the news, and hopefully you will be able to act as soon as possible once some new funds come available. If we're a newer business and haven't been around for 3 years, Eric is asking what happens for us.
Say it again. They've been around how long?
They haven't been around for 3 years, but it doesn't say for how long.
So, and it's for triple P or EIDL or both, or just general question? Okay,
General
so
question.
it doesn't really matter how long you've been around. It matters like how clear you are and detailed and up to date with your historical financials. So you could have started in December, and there's nothing with the EIDL that says that you can't apply, or the triple P that you can't apply. But there are specific cutoff dates. So the EIDL loan declaration date was January 31st. So you would have had to technically start your business before January 31st, preferably in 2019. The triple P is February 15th. So technically you could have started your business January 31st and had 45 days worth of payroll or business operations to apply. So those are the specific dates that are the most important. It doesn't matter if you're in business 3 years. It probably doesn't even matter if you've been in business 6 months, as long as you have clear, clean financials that you can prove. And if you've been in business under 1 year and you haven't filed your taxes for 2019, I strongly recommend that you file them as soon as possible, because it's the easiest way for you to show a live document that is legit. Since you filed with your taxes, it'd be really hard to do a draft document, but you totally could, and we can help you with that too.
So contact the Small Business Development Center near you, or reach out to us through the through Scott's program. Do you want to give the email address again, Scott, for?
Yeah, if they're not looking at it on this slide, but yeah, it's loans, LOANS at ASK, so ask SBDC.com. And then there's an 800 number that you can call and talk to a live person. The emails are a little bit slower on response time, meaning like maybe half hour to 1 to 2 to 3 hours later. But the phone call, you get a live person. And if you don't get a live person, it goes to voicemail. And Sunita Maharaj is very quick to send that voicemail to a hungry finance center advisor that can jump on whatever you need right away.
Great. We just have 2 minutes left. I want to answer one more question because I've seen a variety of or very similar ones. So you said that you could only apply for the iBank if you've been declined from PPP and EIDL. People are asking, what if you were declined by one but not the other and still need more funds? Or what if you didn't apply for any of those? Could you still apply? Could you just clarify that?
Yeah, so it's not declined. It's not if you were declined. It's if you do not qualify. So say you do not qualify based on eligibility issues, like are you eligible for an EIDL loan or a PPP loan? And there's ways to find that out. And if you don't know that, we can tell you or help you. But if you know you don't qualify, therefore you don't have to apply and get declined. The biggest example of that, or the best example of that, is if you do not have a social security number and you have an I-10 or you have a matricular ID, you're not going to qualify for the EIDL. I'm not sure about the PPP, but definitely not the EIDL. So if you know you don't qualify, then you can apply for the iBank loan. As far as if you get approved for one and not the other, and can you apply? Sunita was on the same call I was. She probably paid attention more to that question than I did. Do you know if they have to be disqualified for both or just one, or does it matter?
If you can get money from either, or, so if you got money from PPP, then you will not qualify for the iBank guarantee. If you got money from EIDL but didn't get money from PPP, you do not qualify for the guarantee. So that means that you did get money from SBA, because the PPP and the EIDL are SBA loans.
Okay, that's all we have time for today. I feel terrible not being able to answer so many questions, but we will be back here on Wednesday from 10:30 to 11:30 to answer your questions. In the interim, please reach out to 833 Ask SBDC to get a live person to answer your questions, and have a great day. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.